In my journey from Saigon to Siam, I visited 3 countries, and nestled between Vietnam and Thailand is what was to me to become the jewel in the crown, Cambodia. And if you're lucky enough to be visiting this part of the world, then here are some of the basics that you should know. Now, if you're taking anything electrical, then pretty much everywhere I went had sockets that look like these. You see, they'll take the sort of British plugs and European too, although on the odd occasion, it's only the European option available. USB charging points are really commonplace as well. Like generally, it's the older USB-A fitting. There's no Uber. The local equivalent is Grab, and the Grab app is so simple to install and use. Book anything from motorbikes, tuk-tuks and cars to food delivery. Getting cash is simple too. There are plenty of ATMs in the cities, but some smaller banks don't accept foreign cards, so you might also be restricted on how much you can withdraw. Also on money, when you're paying for something by card, the machines where you put your card in and put your PIN number, well, where the PIN numbers display, they're all jumbled up, and every time that machine's used, it's all in a different order. It's really clever, actually. It kind of stops people seeing what you're doing and nicking your PIN. Finally, let's talk toilets. Toilets are Western style, but reach behind you to the right and you'll find a pressurised hose for post-activity cleaning. Just aim and fire. Then there's toilet paper for drying. There's probably enough of that. Now, the Cambodian currency is the riel. Some banknotes can look very similar, so do be careful, and the value is written in Cambodian. But here's my quick currency calculation, although I've rounded it up and down, so again, it's a guide. To keep it simple, a British pound buys 5,000 riel. To work out what something costs, take the price in riel, remove the thousands, and divide it by 5. So if a hotel room is 200,000 riel, remove the 1,000, get 200, divide 200 by 5, and it's £40. But if you want to pay in US dollars, well, the prices are nearly always displayed in dollars as well. So use dollars, but you might get your change in riel, so you keep your wits about you. After a really long day on the giant Ibis bus, I arrived in Phnom Penh in the midst of neon lights and tacky bars. Hostesses beckoning punters in, with European men following like lambs. But away from all the bustle, there's still some peace. And in the morning, my hotel gave me a great view of the city, with time to relax and reflect. I had a wonderful couple of days in Phnom Penh and enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, but I'd planned my Cambodian visit to be split between the capital in the southeast and then a 2-day stop in Siam Reap in the northwest. There are a few options to make the journey from one to the other. My initial choice was to take a boat across the Tonle Sap Lake, but that could be a day of just looking at water. Having done the travel by bus to get to Cambodia, I opted for a private hire car. It is an 11-hour trip with a few stops, and those stops were quite an eye-opener. For my first taste of the temples of Cambodia, a tour guide hopped into my car and then proceeded to tell me some really strange jokes.
Why you go to restroom?
I don't know. Why do you go to the restroom?
Because the restroom do not come to you.
But apart from the jokes, these temples were impressive and really tell the history of Cambodia. Now, I wasn't sure if this market was for tourists or locals. It's stalls selling every type of insect you could imagine. Apparently the town was infested with spiders in the 1970s, and starving inhabitants began to eat spiders during the famine brought about by the Khmer Rouge. Fried tarantula. Not for me, I think. Back on the road, rural life and some absolutely breathtaking scenery. In Siem Reap, my hotel was quite a find. It was out of town, quiet and relaxing. But downtown things were very, very different. It felt like tourist hell. Tomb Raider was filmed in this area, and Angelina Jolie's signature cocktail is everywhere. Tourists flock to this area for one reason and one reason alone: Angkor Wat. It's actually a complex of many temples, not just Angkor. It's a bit like visiting theme parks in Florida, with a pass valid for 1, 3 or 7 days. But there are a few things to know before you visit the area. These are temples, so long trousers and covered shoulders, please. And it can be quite strenuous. I felt like Indiana Jones at times in some of the temples. Here's an example. First, up the steep stone steps and across the stepping stones. This wooden ladder is steep, but at least there are handrails. Because then the really big one, the steep steps, they're slippery too, and absolutely nothing to grab onto. It's the same way down, but that's even more difficult. For £15 I'd booked a private tuk-tuk for the entire day, and we visited so many temples. Some were just piles of rubble. Here's one of those Indiana Jones moments. You can watch temples being swallowed up by huge trees. At what was once Hindu temples have been converted to Buddhist. The main attraction and the biggest temple is of course Angkor Wat. I'd chosen to visit Angkor Wat at sunrise. That meant my tuk-tuk picking me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Then waiting for the sun to slowly come up. The golden hour started at 6, and at 6:30 the temple doors open. It's a very, very busy place. But around the back it's a different story. There's peace and tranquility. But it's still a very impressive place, whichever side you see it from. And so much to see. From Siam Reap I headed further west to the Thai border, leaving behind some marvellous memories. But if you want to know more about how I planned my trip to and through Cambodia, then I've put together an interactive travel pack, and you can see it at GoldGoggles.com.